So here's my painting. Been gathering dust for 2 years along with many others. Using this as an example of what not to do. And I'm hoping in a minute to introduce you to to 3 paintings that will hopefully help me to put things right, and also I hope you'll enjoy seeing. So let's have a look. What happened was, it was one of these open day paintings at Patchings, and I thought I really must take part in this, although rusty. So there I went up, all enthusiastic, ready to wallow in paint. And so my first mistake was I took a piece of board that I'd already got and I hadn't underpainted it. And I usually do like underpainting. The board itself, you can just see over here, it's what we call the tawny board. There's some bits of it still showing, which is a nice colour actually to go underneath, which is why I recommended for your painting to go for a white, but mainly yellow ochre, so just a little bit of white. It's a nice colour to have underneath. So my second mistake, so I was eager, got my chair there, got sorted out. My second mistake was I was so eager to get going that I didn't do any thumbnail sketches, and that would have saved me an awful lot of heartache later on. So the first thing to do is to consider your vantage point. Now obviously if you want to sit down to paint, that requires you seeing what sort of chair you're on and what sort of level you have, and obviously you get totally different viewpoint if you're standing up. So that was it, and obviously looking at it now, we've got this really strong horizontal that cuts the picture through and is too strong. So basically there's not enough leading into the picture. What happened at the time, you might just see here, there's a little rabbit, and at the time there were a couple of little rabbits playing, which I suppose enticed me to be in there. At least I thought they were playing anyway. So I started and just in at the deep end. I did thin the paint a little bit to begin with, and then carried on, and gradually the paint got wetter and wetter and wetter. So being a bit disgruntled, I left it alone. The light had changed, and I thought I'd save it then, let it dry off and come back another day. So a year later was my other day. I had intended to go back the second day, but it was all wet anyway. So the next session wasn't much better because everything, obviously, the stage had been set and I just had to carry it through. So the other main thing it lacks terribly is lights and darks, in particular the lights, and you'll see that glaringly in the couple of examples I want to show you. And the paint was still wet on my second session, and I was so dischuffed with it, so you'll tell me off about this. So I actually went to get some black paint, horror of horrors, because I thought, well, why? I've only got this one chance to see where the shadows were and to try and get enough depth into it. So while I was trying to do that, I thought, right, slap some black paint on it, at least I'm establishing the tones for a later date. So there's these very stark areas of tone here, which are very dead, and dead here, look. Oh, terrible. Darken in here. You need darks to get lights, but those darks have got to be interesting, which is why I do encourage people not to use black, because straight away you're using a colour that sort of deadens things. And then the other thing, mainly because it was so wet as well, I didn't get the brights colours, the light of it bright enough. These trees here, this foliage here, is very dead. Needs to be much brighter. That trunk needs to be lightened. That's awful. And again, the trees over here got a little bit of light and got some red showing, a little bit of board showing there through. So that's about all my mistakes. It's sort of ruined by enthusiasm, not taking my time. The thumbnail sketches would have helped me an awful lot, and as would the underpainting. So let me show you what eventually I'm going to do with it, which is making the shadows more interesting, bringing out these lighter colours more, and even maybe altering the composition just slightly, which I'll show you later. So I just want to show you just quickly, just to show you how dead it is, to illustrate it. I've got a black and white image of this, so I'll stop at that point